Italy, another thing that happened, Keith, which is presenting now, did a concurrent room downstairs. He did his presentation, and everybody came out completely transformed. I said, what happened? Where did you go? You have to hear this guy. You have to see what is the... We were like, what? So we did it again in the plenary, like now at the closing in Italy, and it was another. I assure you, the next 20 minutes, you're going to have a sensory experience that you do not expect. And that's all I say. I'm raising the bar because I know Keith is going to handle it. Put yourself in a way that you can see the screens. I recommend you that. Make sure you can see the screens, right? Keith.
In the beginning of all things, wisdom and knowledge were with the animals. For Tirawa, the one above, did not speak directly to human beings. He sent certain animals to tell humans that he showed himself through the beasts, and that from them, and from the sun, and the moon, and the stars, human beings should learn. Tirawa spoke to human beings through his works. For more than 2 million years, we have been sculpted by nature, blessing us with senses and feelings that can track even its most subtle changes. Senses and feelings that interpret the wisdom of Tirawa, the one above. Senses and feelings that maintain a harmony between the rhythms of the sun and the moon and the stars, and the cellular and physiological rhythms of our bodies. Rhythms that impact our moods, our physical health, even our belief systems. But many of our people feel shut out from the law of the stars, cut off from the natural world. The question is, if we lose our connection with nature, how can we find it again? There is indigenous wisdom that suggests we should simply stand still. Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. You must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or branch does is lost on you, then you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. So the wisdom suggests that if we lose our connection with nature, there's no need to run around trying to find it again. Instead, we should simply stand still, because wherever we are is here, and here is exactly where we should be. When we can finally stand still and bring the fullness of our attention to the present moment, the forest, the natural world, will find us. Tirawa, the one above, will send one of his animals, or the sun, or the moon, or the stars, or a plant, or a rock, or a fungi, to find us. And often, the first place they look for us is in our dreams. Or they come in a meditation, or in a vision, or in our everyday lives. If we can treat these visitors as powerful strangers and ask permission to know them and be known, they may offer us an invitation to re-establish our accord with the natural world. And a powerful way to accept this invitation is to go out into nature and engage a physical animal in its natural habitat. Doing this ignites a dynamic interplay of all of our senses. We see, we hear, we smell, perhaps we even touch or taste our creature. Now, some of the creatures who come to us in dream time or in a meditation or in our everyday lives carry an enormous power, a power far too vast for our normal everyday awareness. They make us feel small, insignificant. Perhaps they bring us face to face with our own mortality, and we're tempted to turn away from them. But if we can begin to build an intimate rapport with these creatures, our fears may simply dissolve away. We may even find that some of our rigidly held perspectives of the world and what we think is wrong with the world begin to relax. Maybe the world feels a little less mechanistic, like it's tinged with a bit of enchantment. Perhaps we can relax more fully into Shanti. 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 The peace which passeth understanding. Experienced this several years ago when I moved to Parksville on Vancouver Island in Canada. One night, not long after I moved there, I dreamed of a small goose, and this small goose invited me to join it on a great journey over the ocean. And amazingly, the next day when I went for a walk on one of Parksville's beautiful beaches, I encountered a whole flock of these small geese. I later learned that they were brant geese. And I learned that brant geese really do go on a great journey over the ocean. Because each year, brant geese migrate all the way from Baja, California, up to the Canadian high Arctic to raise their young. And the beaches of Parksville are the midway point on the journey. And they stop on the beaches to feed, to build up their strength so that they can make it the rest of the way to the Arctic. And in a beautiful piece of life's choreography, the Parksville beaches have a sumptuous feast just waiting to replenish the weary travelers. Because as the brant geese are migrating onto the Parksville beaches, Pacific herring are migrating in from the open ocean and gathering in their spawning grounds that lie just off the beaches. The herring come in huge, dense schools of fish, sometimes several kilometers long. And when they reach their spawning grounds, each female begins to release up to 40,000 clear, sticky eggs. These eggs are rich in protein and fat. And that's what the brant geese come for. You can hear the hungry excitement in their voices long before you see them flying in. They come in small flocks, singing their hunger. They come in great flocks, singing their hunger. And as soon as they land, they begin to eat. They eat while they're walking. And they eat while they're talking. They eat while they're swimming in the water. And they eat while they're standing on the beaches. And it's not just the brant geese who come to feed on the eggs. Multitudes of gulls also arrive for the feast. And the gulls are joined by diving ducks who are hungry for the eggs. And oyster catchers range up and down the beaches in search of eggs. And Aboriginal people go out and gather the eggs in their traditional way. And gray whales stop by on their way to Alaska, and they join in the feast. And then there are the shorebirds, the dunlins, the sandpipers, and the sanderlings, and they're all hungry for the eggs. But it's not just the eggs that the animals come for. The eggs start to hatch into larvae in about 10 to 14 days, and there are fish, the salmon, the perch, and the hake, and they're all hungry for the larvae. And clouds of gulls go out on the water, and they're all hungry for the juvenile herring. And hundreds of sea lions come in from the open ocean in a great Dionysian celebration. And they're joined by hundreds of herring fishermen and hundreds of eagles. And they're also hungry for the adult herring. Often, when I witness this spectacle, this mystery play, I am struck by the immense sacrifice that the herring make in the service of life itself. Because of the 40,000 eggs that each female may release, only 4 will reach adulthood. So this means that the other 39,996 eggs come into existence to nourish other life forms, to nourish the brant geese and the gulls and the diving ducks and the dunlins and the sandpipers and the sanderlings and the whales and the sea lions and the eagles and the human beings. So much life coming into life to nourish other life forms. After a few weeks, the brant geese grow fat and strong from feasting on the eggs. They spend a few more days calmly swimming in the quiet waters off the beaches. And then one day, they begin to rise up into the sky to continue their journey to the Arctic, where their young will provide nourishment for hungry Arctic foxes and hungry herring gulls and hungry parasitic jaegers and a whole host of other hungry creatures. As I have stood still beside the brant goose, my feelings and my dreams have reached outward in all directions, becoming ever more inclusive, reaching out to embrace the relationships of the salmon, those same salmon who feasted upon the herring larvae and grew strong and went out on their own magnificent journey into the Pacific Ocean, until one day they turned homeward to spawn in the rivers of their birth, like the Goldstream River just outside Victoria on Vancouver Island. Each fall, thousands of salmon return to spawn in the Goldstream River. When the salmon reach their spawning grounds, each female uses her tail to dig a series of depressions in the gravel of the riverbed, and she will deposit up to 7,000 round pink eggs into these depressions. The males fertilize the eggs as soon as they're deposited, and then the female uses her tail once again to gently move gravel over the nests of eggs, covering them in an attempt to protect them from predators. And these eggs need all the protection that they can get, because during the spawning season, a whole host of other creatures arrive at Goldstream to feast on the salmon eggs. American dippers position themselves on partially submerged rocks and logs all along the riverbank, and they courageously dive into the river again and again in search of eggs. And then there are the gulls. They seem to come by the thousands, and they're all so creative in finding the salmon eggs. The gulls use their webbed feet to churn up the gravel of the riverbed, to disturb the nests of eggs. And then they do these quick dives down into the water to grab the eggs before they're washed away by the current of the river. The American dippers and the gulls and all of the other animals consume about 5,600 of the 7,000 eggs that each female may deposit. And of the eggs that do hatch, only 1 in 1,000 will return to spawn. The other 999 are consumed by hungry seals and hungry sea lions and hungry orca whales and hungry dolphins and hungry bears and hungry eagles and hungry human beings. Again, so much life comes into life to nourish other life forms, to nourish life itself. And of course, it's not only through their eggs that the salmon offer the gift of life to others. Because after they spawn, the salmon begin to grow weaker and weaker. they literally begin to disintegrate before our eyes. You often see it first in their tattered dorsal fins. And eventually, they begin to lose ground against even the gentlest flow of the river. And one day, they surrender, resting in the river until dragged ashore by hungry gulls, who are joined by hungry mink and hungry otters and hungry raccoons and hungry bears and hungry eagles, all so hungry for the flesh of the salmon. Even the trees celebrate the death of the salmon. Goldstream has some enormous trees, huge western red cedars and huge Douglas firs, some of them 600 years old. Huge broadleaf maples and huge black cottonwoods and huge grand firs. These trees can only grow this big and live this long because of the salmon. The bears and all of the other animals drag the salmon carcasses into the forest to eat them. And there's so many salmon, they only eat the good parts. They leave the leftovers for the bacteria and the fungi and the insects who break down the flesh of the salmon and make the nutrients available to the trees. Up to 75% of the nitrogen in the Goldstream trees comes from the salmon. It's no wonder they call the Goldstream forest a salmon forest. So a creature comes to us in the dream time, or in a meditation, or in our everyday lives. And as we focus our attention on the uniqueness of our creature, our feelings and our dreams reach outward in all directions. We stood still beside the brant goose, and our feelings reached out to embrace the herring, and the herring eggs, and the seagulls, and the seals, and the sea lions, and the salmon, and the mink, and the otters, and the raccoons, and the whales, and the trees, and the eagles, and the human beings. The more attention we offer to the uniqueness of our creature, the more our feelings reach outward to embrace life, and the more life reaches toward us to embrace us. We begin to feel our intimate relationship with the miracle of how new life comes into the world. And we begin to feel our intimate relationship with the immense sacrifice that all creatures make to sustain life itself. We feel the complexity. We feel the magnitude. We feel the mystery. And when I open my feelings fully to this mystery, what I feel is a net of gems, like Indra's net of gems, where each gem within the net reflects every other gem. When I open my feelings to one gem, I feel all gems. When I open my feelings to one organism, I feel all organisms. A net of gems held together by relationship. a net of gems held together by each unique organism, fully living out its true vocation, its true calling. And by realizing the fullness of their calling, the net of gems becomes one gem. And that one gem is love. Unconditional, transpersonal love. The one great love of existence. And when we feel this love, we feel within every cell of our being that we too are a gem within the net of gems. We feel why we are here. We feel why it is so important that each one of us is here. We feel how, through our birthing and our living and our dying, we are a reflection and an expression of this oneness, of this love.
Wow. Even I've seen it, and it's still as touching as the first time or more. Brother, you're amazing. This is an incredible way to close this event with this sense of unity and love. I mean, you're amazing.
Thank you.
Oh my God. Thank you, brother.